So in this video, we're going to take a look at Wright's chapter in Simply Christian on For the Beauty of the Earth. And I'm just going to do a little summary of some of the key points that he has made about how our sense of that which is beautiful in the world is an echo of a divine voice. So first of all, he opens up the kind of the idea that while the world is full of what we might call beautiful, or something is, we would describe it as beauty, aspect of beauty, it is nevertheless incomplete because when we call something beautiful, well, why is this one thing beautiful and something else is not beautiful? What is it about this thing that we call beautiful? That what does it have that distinguishes from something else? What is it that we are sensing when we want to use this word to describe something as beautiful? And the fact is, that there can be variety in describing something as beautiful from our different experiences. Also, we don't even know why something should be beautiful. Why is it that we want to call something that we see as beautiful? Where is that coming from? Where is the need to describe something as beautiful? So beauty is a matter of perspective or taste. So one man or woman might see their spouse as beautiful, whereas other people might look at that same individual and not see them as beautiful. In one culture, a particular form might be considered the most beautiful, whereas in other culture, a different type of form might be considered more beautiful, more desirable, more appealing. And so these are things that become culturally informed from different countries, and even in the same country. You can have people, because of their culture, they want to describe things as beautiful that other people living in the same area might not call beautiful. So, also another complexity about all this is that beauty is something that can fade. It can fade because there are changes to the thing that's beautiful. So you might look at a face that is beautiful at one time, but over time, what you thought was beautiful has now changed and it no longer has those qualities about it that you would want to say is beautiful. Or maybe something that wasn't beautiful at one time has changed and now it has become beautiful. Or something that at one time you looked at and thought was beautiful, but because you see it repeatedly, you become accustomed to it and you no longer consider it as beautiful. You have to go somewhere else in order to see something that you would then strike as beautiful, whereas you had thought something was beautiful at one time. So the thing that we describe as beautiful, or the sense of beauty, is fading. Now, Wright makes the point that it is a mistake to think that what we see as beautiful is giving us some kind of direct access to God or what is transcendent. So it is not that when I look at a beautiful scene, a mountaintop experience, or the ocean, or the cosmos, the stars, or even a person's face, that what it is that I am seeing is somehow allowing me to have access to the God who created that thing. That is, I have this direct access to Him through this event. Or I am having direct access to what is transcendent. Now, we might call the experience that we are having a transcendent experience, but we are not really having access to the transcendent when it is that we view this thing. So, whatever beauty is, it is giving us a sense of awe. Something in it captures our attention and it maybe gives us a sense of wonder about how a thing is created or why this thing exists and how it has come to be. Maybe it gives us a sense of gratitude that it is that we get to see that which is beautiful. Or, I've talked about seeing, but you can also talk about hearing something beautiful. Wright will talk about music at the beginning of his chapter. And so we hear something, and one piece of music is beautiful and may lift our spirits or sense in one way, and we are grateful for that. But it takes a different kind of music to do the same thing for somebody else. And we might even at times hear or see or taste something that we would want to describe as beautiful and have a sense of reverence for it because it is just so outstanding in terms of a quality that it has that we want to elevate and that we want to appreciate and that we want to celebrate as something that truly is significant. So, but it is a mistake to think that our sense of beauty is merely a byproduct of evolution or our genes. It's not because we're looking at something as beautiful and saying it's beautiful. It's because prehistoric man or humans were somehow or another found some kind of utility about these things. And we're just hearkening back to that which ancient humans have found some particular purpose for. It's not through evolution, and there's not a gene that tells us that something is beautiful. This sense that we are having comes from somewhere else. So what is it? Now, Wright will make mention about Plato. And that Plato is partially correct. So Plato is most famous for his concepts of the forms and the ideas. That you look at all these things in the world, and these things are forms that point us to the ideals. And so the example is that of a chair. You see lots of different things that we call a chair, but the variety of things that we call a chair are just forms of the ideal chair that exists in the ideal world. And so he's partially correct that, these different things that we see are pointing us to something that we do not see. So when we see something that is beautiful and we have some kind of an attraction to it, there is something about the thing that we are seeing that is calling us to that unseen world. But he's incorrect to claim that because of this, that the seen world is bad in itself. So for Plato, the world is a bad thing. And what we want to do is escape. Your physical body is a bad thing. And what you want to do is you want to escape it. So it's the soul or the spirit that is the good thing. And so escaping this world is what is desirable. Well, he's incorrect about that because, as the book of Genesis will tell us, when God creates the cosmos, he calls it good. So there is a goodness about it. It is not an evil. It is not inherently evil, as what Plato would espouse. And so this is important to keep in mind when one wants to understand the overall biblical narrative, that the world is not inherently evil. It was created as something which was good. So the three monotheistic faiths claim that the world was created good, but it has become subject to evil. Stories of Adam and Eve, and bringing in kind of sin and death, and then not only affected Adam and Eve, but it affected the whole cosmos. But later on, as we will find, that God is going to try to repair the evil that becomes infected in the world. Now, the book of Genesis, that comes through the call of Abraham and creating a people and having a people have this relationship with him, and how their relationship with him is supposed to lead then into a repairing of the world, or a fight against the evil through this family. But later on, when we get to people like the prophets, we will find this idea of God repairing the world through the nation of Israel. So Isaiah 11, for instance, teaches that the earth will be full of God's glory. It will talk about a time in which, the asp and the adder, the snake, as it were, will not cause harm on God's holy mountain. No child shall be hurt by a snake, part of the reality of the world in which we live in now. That which is we're vulnerable, as it were, to evil that exists or to the dangers that exist in the world. Early in Isaiah 6, it was claimed that the world is already filled with God's glory. So that famous statement that you'll see here on the slide is "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." This is part of the Isaiah's vision when he is being called. And what is sung is that the whole earth is full of his glory. So there's a sense in which already the world is full of God's glory, even though it can also anticipate a time in which the earth will be full of glory. So when you see this kind of language in Isaiah, a kind of what is and what will be, and you'll see this as well in the New Testament, when Jesus will have language about, the kingdom of heaven is here, and also talk about the kingdom of heaven as something to occur in the future. So there's both present and a not yet aspect. So what's happening here is that the earth is pointing us, kind of like what Plato was saying, but is pointing us now to what God will do in the future. So it is pointing us to something else in the unseen world, not ideas that is being represented by the forms, but these things that we see that we call beautiful is pointing us to how God will interact, as it were, with the world. So what's going to happen is the beauty of the earth that we are seeing and that we are experiencing will be enfolded into the beauty of God. So when we call something beautiful, what Wright is kind of arguing here is that experience of calling something beautiful is this echo of what is already true about God, that in a sense, God himself has beauty. So we think sometimes God's holiness or his justice or his righteousness or his mercy and compassion, quality, but this thing about recognizing something as beautiful is really an aspect of God himself, that he is beautiful. And were we to see God, we would see that this beautiful, if we could comprehend what it is that we are seeing, we would respond in the same way as when we get these glimpses of beauty in creation or in people or in sounds that we have or in taste. And so what's being anticipated in one sense, in one level in the prophets, and then greater, when we get into the New Testament with Jesus' teaching, and then finally in the book of Revelation, what it anticipates is this kind of where the present world order is enveloped, as it were, with God's righteousness, justice, and his beauty. And so we see the world as it ought to be. We see it back, as it were, restored to Eden. And so this is a very important point to be raising, especially for Christians, and as Christians think about their relationship to the world. Because sometimes you will hear in certain quarters the idea that this world is passing and we want to escape from it. It's not our home, and so we're just living here temporarily until we go to another world that's not this world. And that's mistaken, because the world is really what was created by God for human beings. We were created to live on the earth. But of course, it has become contaminated by evil, and what needs to happen is not to take us away from the world, but to take away evil from the world. That's what's the problem, and that's what needs to be addressed or repaired by God through the work of Christ and his sacrifice and the creating of a people who live as the covenant people of God. That is, God always intended to work out justice and beauty in the world. And so Wright will conclude this chapter by calling that we celebrate the complexity and simplicity of living and trying to have things that we think we want to have, such as justice, such as a sense of being loved, such as beauty itself, that we celebrate all of this complexity and simplicity by telling stories. We tell stories about what's right. We tell stories about being loved. We tell stories about what is beautiful. We act out rituals. We have our things, whether when we want to highlight justice, we have clothing that, sometimes judges will wear. We have things like gavels, and we have scales, and we have routines we might call rituals, pledges that are made. We have as well these other things that we associate with the pursuit of justice, and as well with the thing of beauty. We celebrate beauty, and we have ways of celebrating that beauty. We have certain traditions in which each culture uses to highlight something as beautiful. And certainly within Christianity, we have things that we think are beautiful, things that we think are just, and we have our rituals in order to celebrate those things. We create beauty. So in the different careers that people have, the different activities that people have, they are contributing to the world and to the ways in which the world can work beautifully, which the world can work justly, which the world can work towards people living in relationships as God intended them to be. So we create beauty, we work in communities, and we think our beliefs. By thinking our beliefs, he means, we are thinking about what it is that we believe. We are clarifying our understanding of what it is that we believe, with the hope that what it is we believe, we then will act upon. The things that we value, we then act upon those. They change, they transform us. So it's not just having these conceptual thoughts about beliefs, but it is really taking ownership of these beliefs in such a way that they impact the way we live. So we become people in this world that demonstrate all that God wants the world to be when we do these 5 things, these telling stories, acting out rituals, creating beauty, we're working in communities, and thinking our beliefs. And so that gives you a little summary of the content in Wright's For the Beauty of the Earth.